Hey, thanks for checking out this interview I did with Scott, a former client of mine who's now playing professionally in Croatia. He has a real underdog story about starting at a small Christian high school, going to a small Christian university, had no exposure professionally, and yet now because he took matters into his own hands, because he really worked hard in the weight room and on the basketball court. He's now under professional contract playing in Croatia. It's just a truly great story and a testament to his hard work. And so I encourage you to just listen to his words, and hopefully it inspires you and motivates you wherever you're at in your career path. So without further ado, here is my interview with Scott Diehl. So I'm here with Scott Diehl. Scott is a client of mine. He trained with me for over a year. And he just signed his first professional contract in Croatia. And so we just want to go through and talk about his training and talk about where he was and where he and how he got to where he is now. So Scott, can you just tell us a little bit about your background in terms of position you play and the type of high school that you went to and what your kind of basketball aspirations were?
Yeah, so I play point guard or playmaker, as it's commonly known over here. I've pretty much always played a guard position, except
Yeah,
maybe in like middle school, because I'm 5'9", 5'10" on a good day.
yeah.
So, yeah, I played at Veritas Academy in Austin, Texas. I actually played against Phil in high school when Phil was coaching against me.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's kind of how I got to know him. But yes, it was a very small high school. It was like a 3A private school, about like 150 kids.
And that's
It
total, right?
had,
The whole school.
yeah, that was total in the high school. In total in the high school, 150 kids. And then we had like a 12-person basketball team, so only varsity. Um, and I was always a leader on the team, always trying to get things organized, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Had a good run. My senior year, I got an offer from an NAIA school called Olivet Nazarene University,
Uh-huh.
and to go play ball up there in Chicago. And so I went there for a year, and I had always wanted to play professionally afterwards, but I wasn't really feeling school. Uh, so I basically just decided to like take a shot and left school, came back to Austin, and then that's when I started training with Phil, and he started helping me get connected. And now I think like I want to say what this is 2 years later, or like a year later, year and a half, 2 years later, I'm in Croatia.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of the journey up until this point. A very brief summary.
Yeah. Yeah, it was about a year and a half ago. If I go back and look, you started June 17th, 2019.
Yeah,
So about a year and a
yeah,
half.
that was the year I left school. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, about a year and a half ago. And so that was, I feel it was a good uh, pivot point for you. What was your life like before then? And I mean life in terms of like basketball. What was your body like? What was your thoughts on training for basketball like? If you can remember that before June 17th last year.
Yeah. So I didn't do a ton of lifting in high school. In like middle school and early high school, I did a lot of like plyometrics workouts and some stuff at home. I had some dumbbells, and I think I'm sure you've heard of P90X. That's what I would do back at my house when I was really young. That's basically like the first ever, I guess, exposure to like any kind of organized working out
Yeah.
I had. And my high school was so small that we didn't have a weight room. We still didn't have a campus that was our own when I was going there. Um, and so, yeah, so I basically I would work out at the YMCA's sometimes, but it was never really consistent, and I didn't really know what I was doing. So I wouldn't see a whole lot of progress. I remember I did start getting a little more consistent uh, before my senior year of high school, and noticed a little bit of progress, but I didn't continue it through the season just because I never really worked out during the season.
Right.
Yeah, just because I was always tired and I didn't think about it, that it would actually be a good thing or a bad thing. I was just kind of figured that, well, it's going to make me more tired, so I'd rather not do that.
Yeah.
And then in college, I got into lifting more, and started to actually research it and stuff like that. But it was all through YouTube and just people I knew around school. And my university didn't really have a solid lifting program either. So it was basically just like kind of the bodybuilding style. So that's kind of my experience before. And then, yeah, and then showed up at Phil's.
Yeah. Okay, so then talk to me a little more then. What did those workouts look like, even though you didn't have a legitimate training program with the team at your university that you were at? Was it, were you doing total body work? I mean, the bodybuilding influence has really infiltrated the sports training, and a lot of athletes look at Schwarzenegger and these other bodybuilders and think that we should have a chest day and an arm day and a leg day. Is that how your workouts were split
Yeah.
up? And then what were the rep ranges and things like that?
As far as like with the team, it was always, we would do like, basically we had specific lifts. Like we would do bench and we would do squats. I don't think we ever deadlifted as a team. We did, I remember we basically, before, it was kind of preseason is how we did it. So we had like a bunch of track workouts, and that was pretty much just all running and some like tire stuff and, you know, that kind of stuff. But then in the weight room, it was like we had bench, just regular flat bench. We had pull-ups and we had squats, and those were the main exercises we did.
Okay.
And we basically were just doing it to find like benchmark numbers kind of thing. Right. So we did like sets of 8 to 10, find out whatever weight you could do for 10 for bench and for squat. And then on bench, you also tried to figure out what your 1 to 2 rep max was, okay. I think.
Yeah.
And we only had one strength coach, so he wasn't able to really teach us a whole lot. And then on pull-ups, it was just like however many you can do. And it was very like swing yourself. Like it wasn't really actual pull-ups per se. It was more just like trying to, yeah, like momentum kind of thing. Yeah. And so in squats, I don't think we actually ever went to 1 rep max. I think we just did, we just did like sets of 10. And then my own personal workouts were more like, you know, it was more just like chest and arms or back and like that kind of stuff. I'd break it up like bodybuilder stuff because that was the stuff that I was learning from. So I was like, oh, I guess this is the way to do it. Yeah. And so yeah, that was kind of how I did that. And I think also with squatting too, I would always be like wary of squatting because of the way that, like in the basketball world, I know at least growing up, it was always like, you gotta be careful about squatting. It's bad for your knees. And like, I knew a lot of guys on the team, they would never do legs. And everybody on the team too, since we didn't have a lifting program, always got visibly smaller and weaker during the season. So it was an interesting thing. Yeah.
So you had guys that didn't squat. You said you're always going to about 10 reps. I imagine, and I'm just assuming here, correct me if I'm wrong, but I imagine that there was varying degrees of depth. Like some guys would squat lower, some guys would go a quarter of the way down. Did the strength coach ever give you a kind of barrier where you got to get to this level, or what do you say? I
think it was like he was kind of trying to get us to like this like 90 degrees basically. And also, I mean, he wasn't technically a strength coach too by trade. He was a GA. So he knew a certain amount about working out and everything. And he was athletic and was able to do his job just fine and everything. Yeah. But he was more like, just do it as best you can. Cause I don't think he necessarily felt confident enough to give us great tips. Yeah. So it was interesting. It was mostly like 90 degrees though, was kind of the goal, but definitely not everybody got that.
Okay. So when you came to me, we did a lot of tests, right? We did testing. Have you ever been done testing or been tested before in terms of like what we did?
Not the way we did it, no. Like at at school and all that, the stuff we did was all exclusively like how much can you do of a certain weight. It was all weight related, or like how high is your vertical. And we did some like running times and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah. So when you came to us, I'm sure you remember. I'm looking at your sheets right now. You had weak VMOs and you had weak QLs. So
Yeah.
the VMO is a quadricep muscle. It's around the knee, and you know this from your training. We did a lot of knee dominant stuff, a lot of Poliquin step ups, a lot of and Peterson step ups, backward sled drags, things like that. And then your QLs were weak. Your low back was weak. And so by our standards and how I train is we wanted to bring those up, and we wanted to strengthen your weaknesses to basically make you more, I always like to say, harder to kill, make you more invincible. So,
Yeah.
so then we started the training. What did you notice initially about training with me versus how you trained in the past?
It was a lot more, it was more intensive, meaning like for me, it was always kind of like most of the time I was training by myself. So it was like, you do the 8 to 10 reps. That was always my rep range. And it just wasn't I wouldn't always put as much weight on there. Like I always thought I was trying. It's not like I was intentionally being lazy, but it was just like, I figure I probably can't do 8 to 10 with a higher weight.
Yeah.
So it wasn't what happened when I was training with you. It was more like we would go there and kind of, if it didn't work out, it didn't work out, and then we'd go back down. Versus when I was just doing it on my own, or even really with the team, it was just kind of like 8 to 10 reps.
Yeah.
This is a comfortable weight.
Right.
So just that was one thing that definitely stuck out. And then certainly like the way you would describe lifts, because it was very intentional as well. It was intensive and intentional, and also the whole just knee over toe kind of thing, and going all the way down on those specific, on the squats and like the split squats and stuff like that was very interesting. And also how concise it was. That was another thing, because my workouts individually always felt like they would just like fade into time and I'd be there forever and it would just kind of go on forever. But yours, it was like, okay, we're getting this done in this amount of time, with the rest periods being very strict and all that stuff, and the tempos too. A lot stuck out in summation.
Cool, cool. What's your favorite lift? I don't know if I've ever asked you that. What's your favorite lift in the weight room?
I think I like doing legs a lot. I like doing the ones that I can do the heaviest weight on are probably my favorite. So I'd say deadlift is my heaviest. And I like doing the squats to the full range of motion because my knees feel very good actually after doing it.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's very nice to do that. I like going heavier. And I also like doing dips because I can do pretty heavy on those now.
Yeah, your dips were legit. And you just said you like to go heavy, and we have gone heavy. But then a minute ago you said when we started it was 8 to 10. So can you talk a little bit maybe about the progression? Because we were at 8 to 10 at the beginning, and I remember doing some wave loading with you. I remember doing some, which if you don't know what that is, that's fine. But I remember doing some wave loading with you. I remember doing, gosh, a whole host of different types of training, some rest pause and whatnot. So what did you think about the progressions? And was there something that really stood out to you with those?
I guess just like the way it feels at different training at those different rep ranges. Because like for me, I had never really I didn't know the difference between like the way hypertrophy worked and the functionality of rep ranges and just the way they function.
Yeah.
And so, like doing the longer rep ranges has always just made me more like, I guess, exhausted is a good way of saying it, just because it's not conditioning per se, but it kind of has that feel to it where it's like it's a grind out kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then whenever we started going heavier, and even with those, I think it was the wave loading. If I'm thinking of the correct thing, where we did like 753, is that wave loading?
Yep. Yep.
When we did that kind of stuff and actually feeling the difference in myself each time, I would like when I was starting going lighter and then getting heavier and heavier and feeling the difference after the lift and the way my body felt, and just kind of after going heavy, the jacked up nervous system feeling and the feeling very strong was something that I hadn't really experienced before. So that was a really interesting like new development, and that's something I enjoy a lot too, just because it gives you energy, and two, it's like very, I don't know, I found that it's something that I'm very quick to get back into, so it helps a lot,
Yeah, that's one
especially
thing
when
that
traveling out here.
yeah, that's one thing that again, when you're thinking about the bodybuilding kind of thing and how it's infiltrated the sports training and athlete training, is people are always thinking they should just be totally crushed and wrecked after a workout.
Yeah,
But if you're training heavier with shorter reps per set, say threes, fours, or fives, and with longer rest periods, you should leave the gym feeling pretty strong, feeling like, yeah, I'm the man
yeah.
kind of thing. You know what I mean? So that's cool you brought that up. So it sounds like you've had a big change in terms of your training, and again, looking at your numbers here, it looks like you put on 7 pounds of muscle pretty much in less than 2 months. So you put on about 3 kilos, and then another month gave us another kilo. We went up 8.5 pounds, so 4 kilos or so, and so definitely put on some muscle, and body fat went down at the same time. I remember we were wanting to get it down a little bit lower, but various things came up. I remember COVID came up. I remember just lots of interesting things. What is your how do you feel now, like in terms of body? And I know you're training on your own there in Croatia and things like that, but what is your how does your body feel? What does your training look like nowadays?
My body feels pretty good. It's interesting just because I think the biggest takeaway that is very easy to like keep up with is just the like I understand how to get myself feeling good more easily now.
Yeah.
So it's like if I go a couple days, like for me, there was a bunch of traveling complications with me getting over here, so I was kind of stuck in a couple places for a little while. So during those times, I was basically just on my own. And at one point, I was in Chicago, and Chicago's very closed down right now because of COVID. And so I didn't always have access to a gym. And so I basically wasn't able to train for like a week or two. And so after a while, it's like I could tell that I hadn't trained for a week or two. I just started feeling it. And it's interesting. I'm just very in tune with what I need to do to get back to feeling good. So it doesn't take me as long, or I don't just like if I'm in a really good groove and then I fall out of it, I don't just lose it. Like I can get back into my groove like really quick. And a lot of that is just from like knowing that I like to go heavy and knowing that that kind of helps get my energy back up. And then especially going into the season and knowing what lifts, like if my knees aren't feeling great, knowing I maybe incorporate more squatting, more kind of knee dominant things,
Yeah.
healing stuff, that kind of thing. It's just really, it's very helpful to just know what I need to do, or just how I feel and how that, yeah, how do I guess, yeah, just how what I'm feeling and what it means.
Yeah.
I actually understand that now, which is very helpful.
I'm glad you brought that up about the knees. I was talking with I made a post the other day. I was talking with a G League player, played at North Carolina State, and we talked a little bit, a good amount actually, on DMs on Facebook, and he started squatting to depth. So he started squatting all the way down,
Oh yeah,
and he noticed that his back hurt less when he squatted
yeah,
all the way down versus stopping at parallel to the ground. So
Yeah, I can't stop at parallel anymore. It really feels so wrong.
Yeah, it feels like you're cheating.
It does. It just feels wrong. Like, I mean, I can do a ton more weight at it, but it does. It hurts my knees a little bit too.
Yeah,
I can feel it. It doesn't feel good.
yeah, yeah. And there's a reason why we don't want to do that. I mean, there's a time and a place, but for some people, but for the most part, yeah, we want to squat to depth. So, um, so talk to me now about your recent success and why I wanted to do this interview in the first place, because I really want to publicly praise you for your hard work, and I really want to
Oh, thank
let the
you.
world know, like, hey, this kid who went to this really tiny Christian school that had 150 kids in the entire high school, when a lot of American high schools have 400 or 500 kids in each class. And then went to a small Christian Christian university, and then didn't only played there 1 year. Is now playing, has his foot in the door playing professionally in Croatia. So I kind of gave it away, but what's your life like now, and what's going on?
So yeah, it's been a wild ride getting here for sure.
Yeah, COVID
But yeah,
definitely let that the wild ride happen a little more wild.
yeah, it just added to it. It was kind of funny because I was like, oh well, why not just add it onto the pile of
Yeah,
of things. Um, so yeah, I mean, I showed up here in Croatia because they were allowing Americans. I didn't have a contract when I got over here in Europe.
yeah,
Um, I was originally going to I tried to just talk to people, use connections, a lot of which I got through you and training with you. So thank you for that.
yeah,
And training with the guys back last summer.
yeah.
Yeah, last summer. And
Seems longer, right? But it was only last summer.
yeah, it does. Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, but just training and stuff like that, and trying to use connections. But since like you said, I don't have, as our mutual friend Clemens has said, I have zero market value
Yeah,
coming into this because I don't have any experience.
right.
And so then, yeah, I basically just headed for a town on the coast and of Croatia. And I showed up at a team's gym and they were like, okay, hey, what's up? And I said, hey, can I work out with you guys? They were still deciding who was on their team. I worked out with them for like a week or two. They didn't have a spot for me, but then they sent me over to this team that I'm with now. Worked out with this team. It's called Kraljevica. Worked out with them for 2 days and liked me, gave me a contract, and so now I'm here doing just figuring it out. I guess I don't know. It's I've been here for about a week, I think.
Okay,
So I'm adjusting to life over here, getting to know my teammates, which has been a lot of fun.
cool.
It's been very cool. It's been a wild ride.
It's the whole analogy of the dogs that chase cars, but
Yeah.
what does the dog do when he actually catches the car? Like, so you're
Yeah.
like, okay, crap, I actually made this thing happen. Like, God helped me out, and I worked hard. But you literally are a good, story of the American dream of just going out there and getting it
Yeah.
done, just showing up and saying, hey, can I play for you?
That's true. It's kind of funny. It's like I was like thinking about it when I was here. I was kind of like, well, hey, I'm a bit like an immigrant going to America, except I'm leaving America and going to going to Europe.
Yeah,
It's kind of the inverse of that. And it also was funny because I'm a Christian, obviously, and I was reading the Bible a lot while I was doing it, and it was like, oh, I'm relating a lot to the way they the way they do their lives in these stories. This is really interesting.
that's
So
awesome.
yeah, it's just been a very interesting, cool experience to do, and I'm
Cool.
looking forward to see whatever happens. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. This is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. Cool. Well,
totally.
thanks. I want to thank you for your time. And anything else you want to add? Any tips for other people? Anybody? Anything for yourself? And if not, that's fine too.
Tips. I would just say don't be of like don't be afraid to ask questions, I guess, especially, in like a group like this too, in the Facebook group, um, with all these basketball guys. Like that's basically the only way that I got to where I am now is just like showing up and asking people if they know somebody. Um, and it's helpful. And like there's a lot of people like you out there who are very willing to help. And
Yeah.
I mean, just people like me and other people who are in our business should just, there's no reason, I guess, not to try to meet people like that, because it's just always mutually helpful and always just a good experience to be part of. So yeah.
Yeah, my wife always talks about assume positive intent. Like
Yeah,
don't like give people the benefit of the doubt. And
totally.
what I've found in the basketball world, which is where I've been a lot of my life, is that people do want to help. Like, sure, like guys are all after the same jobs, but hey, if they know somebody over here and that can help you, like, yeah, just don't hesitate to
Yeah,
ask questions. I really like that. It's a good call.
totally. Yeah.
Cool. All right, Scott. Well, we'll see you. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah,
It's
you
been
got
fun.
it. Cool. So I hope you enjoyed that interview. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel. We are starting to produce a lot of content where we can help you become a quicker, more explosive basketball player, a stronger, more powerful athlete. Hit that notification bell and check out another video too while you're here. We appreciate your time.